Hello, podcast listeners, and thank you for your patience these last couple of months. Today's interview offers something a little different for you, or depending on your lifestyle, it could be quite a bit different than what you're used to. Wine does play a role, as does cannabis. I'll be talking with Tracey Mason, the co-founder and CEO of House of Saka, as we take this trip on the wine road.
We have people writing to us all the time saying, finally, I have a product that I can, bring to my mom's on Thanksgiving. And then we have industry people coming up to us at events saying, thank you for elevating the space, because we're doing something no one else is doing.
I'm using this music because this is what came to mind while searching their website. Their landing page is entrancing, and their branding is eye-catching. House of Saka is an alcohol-removed, cannabis-infused beverage, but the process starts out as Napa Valley wine. Tracey will get into all the details, the science, the flavors in a moment. But first you'll learn the founders are talented, experienced women in the industries of wine and cannabis. Tracey has quite a resume in the wine industry, primarily in marketing, holding a number of vice president positions. But prior to co-founding House of Saka, she was the chief strategy and information officer at CannaCraft, a manufacturer of recreational and medical cannabis products in Sonoma County.
We had founded the company in advance of me joining CannaCraft, but it felt as though at the stage of the company House of Saka was, that it would make sense for me to go and actually learn the cannabis industry. I certainly knew the ins and outs of the wine industry, but cannabis is a whole different animal. So I did about 10 months at CannaCraft and had a bit of a baptism by fire to learn the industry, and still very close with the company, and I have mad respect for their brands and what they do, and it was a great springboard into the industry for me.
Your partner, Cynthia, has an extensive resume in the cannabis industry. You two seem to be an ideal team to bring the magic of Napa Valley with state-of-the-art cannabis infusion to the market.
Yeah, I'm super blessed to have Cynthia as my partner, because what she's been able to do is really bring our brand forward and into the eyes and ears of really influential people in the cannabis space, because really her background is all in PR. So she's absolutely prolific in the cannabis space and works with huge clients. And so her influence on our brand is second to none. It's been incredible.
Your website says Cynthia and you were on a mission to create the world's first line of luxury cannabis-infused products made by and for women. And I've mentioned on my show numerous times that there are a lot of women in the wine industry, in production, hospitality, and executive positions, but the men still seem to hold the top positions. Did you find it a little frustrating? Is that part of why you guys wanted to get out and do something on your own?
Well, I think for me personally, and I don't want to speak for Cynthia, but for me personally, I'd been in the wine and spirits industry for almost 30 years. And so I kind of been there, done that. I've kind of did everything I wanted to do in the industry. And I'm also very, very innovative. And when you're seeing trends before they actually come and you can't address them immediately in the wine industry, because it is a really conservative industry, it got to be a little bit frustrating. And I think that, and I always say to this day that, any day running your own company, despite the frustrations and all of the barriers and all the stress that comes with that, is better, in my opinion, than working for somebody else any day. And especially as it relates to being a woman in a male-dominated field, because I don't see cannabis as that different than alcohol, in the sense that, men seem to get more money, men seem to get more attention from investors, more attention from MSOs. And even though women are doing incredible things in the industry, it feels as though, at least my experience tells me, that it's still a bit of a boys' club.
Yeah. And did Cynthia describe the cannabis business as being that way, or do you think it's more equally balanced on that side in the cannabis industry?
I definitely don't think it's equally balanced. I think there's a lot of press that says, look how many female founders there are in the cannabis industry. But certainly, as I was just saying, I don't think that it's equal by any stretch of the imagination. I still think it's a boys' club. I still think that we have to fight that fight, which is unfortunate. But at least we're in an industry that's in its very nascent stages. So we have an opportunity to grab a piece of that pie early and build from there. And I think that's the difference, is that, as opposed to walking in and trying to elbow people, we're actually kind of just walking in and stepping up to our roles.
Tell me how the idea of House of Saka came between you and Cynthia, how you developed that idea.
I have to give Cynthia all the credit for the idea behind House of Saka. House of Saka is actually a group of ancient female warriors that were said to have ruled the world and conquered all they desired. And she discovered this tribe when she was investigating her heritage at Penn. So she's half Persian. And so the Saka were part of a Persian tribe that sort of like the ancient Wonder Women, if you will. And so she had this idea to create a cannabis-infused wine, really with that as the backdrop. But she had no idea how to do the wine part. So I took it and ran with it and used, all of my years of contacts and to put together what I think is a pretty extraordinary company and some beautiful products that we're making right now.
Again, you ladies are the ideal partners for this project.
We are, and we also have Sue Bakorski, who joined our company she's our acting CFO and also on our board of directors. And she spent 30 years at Constellation Brands. And now Aaron Silverstein, who's our VP of Business Development and Production, came from Bev Zero, which helps us with our alcohol. And his understanding of alcohol removal is second to none. He's literally brilliant. And he's also the president of the Cannabis Beverage Association. So we have a team of professionals that have 70 plus years in beverage and cannabis. And I think we're pretty much the only company in cannabis, in the beverage field at least, that has that kind of in-depth understanding of how to create really innovative and beautiful beverages.
I love the design of your product. The landing page on your website is exotic.
It is. I think when, like any good idea, it really stems from where are the voids in the market. And when we looked across the broad spectrum of the cannabis industry, what we identified were two very major voids. One being products that were really addressing the emerging female consumer. They are the fastest growing consumer in cannabis, but very, very hesitant to smoke, very hesitant to vape. And so they were looking for products that were familiar to them in formats that were familiar to them. So we knew that we had something there. And then the other side of it was there was no one really going after that luxury space, like putting their stake in the ground and saying, we are not just a weed brand. We are a luxury product. And everything that we do, from everything we put out in the universe, I think really backs up that position. And I think that's what makes us stand alone versus, the sea of seltzers in the market and the sea of like sweet and, high dosage drinks in the market. I mean, a cannabis infused alcohol removed wine from Napa Valley is what we do. And that the provenance alone, I think, sets it up as a luxury product.
And when you say luxury product, you're not meaning it's for the higher income clientele, but it's more of a sophistication that you're bringing to the industry.
Yes. I mean, I always say that we make a very sophisticated beverage for very sophisticated adults. And so not only are we self-policing in terms of our messaging because we come from alcohol, so we're used to operating in a highly regulated environment,
right,
but also we're coming at it from wanting to have a portfolio of products that really are reflective of the audience that we're attracting. So while Saka Pink and White, our Napa Valley wines, are really going after that sort of wine occasion that's very, very specific. Come home from work, want to drink a glass of rosé, but don't want the negative effects of alcohol. Whereas Saka Spark, which is our newest innovation, our single-serve sparkling Chardonnay, that's really addressing the legacy user and the emerging consumer because we're using mimosa strain specific live resin in that. So it's a sparkling wine. We remove the alcohol, replace that with mimosa strain specific live resin, which gives it that beautiful orange flavor. In addition, we add a little bit of natural essence of orange blossom and nectarine. So that product, because we're using strain specific, is really exciting to a legacy user of cannabis. On the other side, it also gives a cue to the emerging consumer of what it's going to taste like. And so right, you have that perfect blend of product. And that's why I think Spark specifically has struck such a chord with consumers.
Tell us a little bit more about the process. So it is a fermented wine initially, then you have to remove the alcohol, and then you put the cannabis nano-emulsion into the liquid.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complicated process. I mean, we work with 3 very specific wineries in Napa that we have the wines made, and then we taste them, we remove the alcohol, and which is done through a spinning cone process, which is essentially like a giant centrifuge that uses vacuum distillation to pull off the alcohol and the aroma and flavor compounds, which we can then capture in a separate container and add back after we remove the alcohol. And then we build the flavor profiles up, because when you lose alcohol in wine, you lose quite a lot. I mean, you think about it, you're losing 14%, in many instances.
Weight.
And you're losing weight on your palate. You're losing a perception of sweetness, because our palates accept alcohol as sweet. And so trying to we build those flavor compounds back by using things like grape concentrate and natural essences. And then we work with our emulsion provider to find a compatible emulsion that is both self-homogenizing and highly bioavailable. So you feel the effects of our product, unlike an edible. You feel the effects of our product within 5 to 15 minutes. So it gives you great information on the amount of THC that's right for you.
That's part of your selling point, is you get the feeling right away, unlike alcohol and edibles that might take a longer time before you feel the effects, which also can be deceiving, because you might think, oh, I need more. And then you find out later that, no, you didn't need more.
I think edibles are a lot like tequila for consumers, is that everybody has a nightmare edible story where they had some and then they had more because they didn't feel it, and then they were high for way too long and didn't like the effect. And that's partially because the onset effects are so long. It has to be processed through your liver. But in addition, it's taking the delta cannabinoids that are present in cannabis, and when it goes through your liver, it actually converts those cannabinoids into a hydroxy 11 cannabinoid, which is a much stronger cannabinoid that also has a much longer offset. So people aren't really getting what they think they're getting when they have an edible, and oftentimes they misstep and overdose on them.
Yeah, you do mention that THC and CBD, a cannabinoid, is in this product. What are the differences there?
Well, THC is the psychoactive component, so that's what, quote, makes you feel high or gives you an intoxicating effect. CBD is more of a body high, so it's a very, very strong anti-inflammatory. So what it does is it kind of targets where you might have some back pain or you might feel anxious. It just kind of addresses those issues. Your body's endocannabinoid system absorbs that in the way that targets it very directly. So the beautiful part about Saka products are that, because we're using both THC and CBD in Saka Pink and Saka White, and we're using full spectrum cannabinoids in Saka Spark, you're getting this really sensual, relaxing high that has relatively quick offset, and I think really marries to alcohol in a way that makes consumers really comfortable with consuming it.
Yeah, since the legalization, at least in the state of California, of CBD and THC products, the CBD relaxation process that helps, or what it offers a body has certainly become so popular. And that's the funny thing is, when you go to dispensaries, a majority of the people there are older people.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just because they're old hippies, looking for what they've always enjoyed, but I think it's really understanding how it helps their body.
Absolutely. And especially CBD cannabinoids that are derived from cannabis. I mean, it's a very different animal than a hemp-derived CBD. The effects of cannabis-derived CBD are so much more effective than that of hemp-derived, because this THC, even trace amounts of it, if you do like an 18-to-1 ratio, no psychoactive effects, but yet the THC sort of acts as the greasing of the wheels to get that CBD into your system in the most efficient manner. So I worry a little bit about THC and its future, because I'm afraid that it's going to be sort of the snake oil of our generation if not properly explained, and really let people understand that it's not just the THC, the CBD itself, it's also the terpenes that come with that also influence the effects of the product.
Yeah, it's not simple, is it? It's quite involved on all the details.
It is not simple at all. I mean, I've said this since day one. Being in the cannabis business is hard enough. Developing a cannabis-infused beverage is harder. Developing an alcohol-removed cannabis-infused wine is probably the hardest. But because of our backgrounds in wine and spirit product development, we were able to create a really gorgeous product that really no one's been able to touch so far. So that's been a huge competitive advantage to us.
It seemed like when you were talking earlier, you had some other products in mind. Are you working on some other things?
We are. And, it's because we view House of Saka as more of a House of Chanel, where there's always going to be our flagship products, like to them, their perfume or watches or whatever. But there's going to be other luxury products on which we're working that really marry to what we're doing. So things that are still addressing that same consumer in a very similar way, but things like bath salts and beauty products, and also obviously extending our wine portfolio to include a red. Those are all things that are in full R&D at this stage, and we're just ready to release them once we frankly get more funding to do so.
Well, I know that Coppola has already been involved with cannabis, and do you see yourself aligning with a wine producer at some point?
I don't know, because that there's such a tremendous firewall between alcohol and cannabis, especially from a regulatory point of view, that there's a lot of risk associated with trying to do both. Truthfully, I will say that the large part of our investment group are people from the alcohol industry who are interested in the space, but are sort of allowing this gap between themselves and the product. And I see that alcohol companies, especially once it gets legal, they're sort of waiting to see what's going to happen. And our plan is to keep developing our brand and really own that space, that when it does go legal, we're super attractive to those companies coming in.
Early on there, everybody was saying that the cannabis is going to affect the wine industry negatively. And I don't think it's so much by sales from the consumer. It's more staffing and the employees that are causing the problems. Because a lot of people are leaving the wine industry to go to work for cannabis farms because it's more of an annual job rather than a seasonal.
That's true. And I'm on the board of the Napa Valley Cannabis Association as well. So I'm pretty familiar with the arguments for and against cannabis as it relates to the wine industry. And first of all, there's a tremendous amount of misinformation out there about
what a surprise.
I know, right? The effects of growing cannabis adjacent to grapes, for example, and terpene drift, and a lot of those things are absolutely untrue. And so it's just a matter, I think that we as an industry need to be really vigilant about making sure that we're educating people around that. But as it relates to the risk to the wine industry, there's occasions for everything. It's that song, for everything there's a season. And it's true. But what is a little bit concerning is that the younger consumers coming up don't care about alcohol and wine the way that you and I did, or our generation does. And they're much more prone to cannabis. And so I think finding that balance, but you're not going to spark a joint at a dinner party, generally speaking, right? So finding that balance and being able to bridge the gap between the cannabis occasion and the wine occasion is something that we do really beautifully. But we're one of the few beverages that really does that.
And what kind of response have you received so far?
It's been amazing. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, but I think that's what makes it even that much more rewarding. We have people writing to us all the time saying, "Finally, I have a product that I can, bring to my mom's on Thanksgiving." We have teetotalers telling us, "Thank you for delivering this product," and then we have industry people coming up to us at events saying, "Thank you for elevating the space, because we're doing something no one else is doing." Right. And what's really interesting about it, when you think about cannabis brands, there's a million really big cannabis brands here in California, right? But what is the promise? You can't bring those brands across state lines, because the cannabis, ultimately, if the value in the brand is provenance, whether it's the Golden Triangle or Santa Barbara, whatever, that value isn't translatable to Nevada or to Chicago or to anywhere else. Whereas House of Saka, our value and our proposition is based on the wine, so not necessarily on the cannabis. So we can deliver the promise of California cannabis in a way that no one else can. Yeah, it's a pretty cool position to be in.
And that's legal to do it that way, huh?
It is, yes. So right now we're in negotiation with several other states and with Canada. And what we do is just take our de-alcoholized wine, and we ship it, and then we would infuse it in state, and that's legal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. That makes it a lot easier, huh?
Right, and so it's truly the brand itself. The provenance is centered on Napa Valley and centered on California wine, not necessarily the cannabis itself.
The Emerald Triangle up north of Sonoma County has kind of been the leader for the cannabis industry, but now you're bringing it down to the wine industry in Napa Valley.
We are, and then you have people like Fume that are actually really pushing for like the Napa Valley Cannabis Association, obviously pushing for limited cultivation in the city in the county of Napa, and some really exciting things happening with. If you think about it, Napa's known for world-class grapes because of the soil and the climate and the growing conditions. That's the same exact thing that makes cannabis special. So what that says is, a cannabis plant grown in Napa Valley is going to be a luxury cannabis plant grown in Napa Valley. It's not going to be, what I think people are buying off the street in the illicit market by any stretch. So I think anytime you can elevate a product and leverage the provenance and bring something else to that provenance, you think about cannatourism and all the things that we could leverage as an industry by being a little bit more open to cannabis. I think it's exciting.
What kind of case production level are you at now? If you use case production as a measurement, what do you think you could achieve?
Well, this year we're hoping to do about 5,000 combined cases of our product. So we have 3 SKUs right now, the Saka White and Pink, which are available in standard 750 ml bottles. And then the Saka Spark, which is 187 champagne bottle. So we should do about 5,000 cases this year. And then next year, as we expand in other markets, we expect to, quadruple that.
Great. Yeah, the mimosa, the smaller bottle, is a great way to try it. And it's kind of a single serving, I guess you would call it. And thank you for bringing me 2, because my wife and I can enjoy it together.
It is so delicious. I've been blessed to be a part of launching some amazing brands in the wine and spirit space and things I'm super proud of. But I have to say, I have never made anything this good. And I give huge credit to my team, because what we did was not easy. And to our emulsion provider that was able to get us strain-specific live resin, which is not easy. But I think we choose a more difficult path in order to have a standout product. And I think Saka Spark certainly does that.
How long have you been at it now, working on this project?
So we founded the company in late 2018, and we launched Saka Pink, our first product, in late 2019. After some pretty significant R&D. We had this brilliant idea. We had a brilliant liquid, but there was nowhere to bottle it, because there's nowhere compliant to bottle it. That's changing now. And so, now we have more of the ability to choose the correct production partner for us. Being here at the Galleon in Sonoma County has been a blessing, and their quality control is what we needed to ensure that what we're doing is in line with our luxury positioning.
Yeah, we got to give props to Sonoma County.
Absolutely.
The wine comes from Napa, but you're doing some of the process here in Sonoma.
Absolutely. I lived in Sonoma for 7 years, so I have a lot of love for Sonoma. Now I live in Napa, but I think this is Sonoma and their progression with the cannabis industry far exceeds Napa. And you know what they did? They did a slow roll, which was really smart. And they learned from that roll, and now they're expanding it. So instead of like Santa Barbara, a lot of people compare Santa Barbara to Napa and like what happened in Santa Barbara. Well, Santa Barbara just, literally pulled out the stops, and we're just like, there were no setbacks. There were no, control of how big your grows could be there. And so, it's heavily impacting the population down there, because some people don't like the odors. And so, the way that we're structuring it in Napa is way different. It's way more considered approach to and respect for the industry that we all come from, meaning the wine industry, and looking for different ways to bring cannabis in a really controlled and considered fashion.
Yeah, you must be really proud to be a leader in this industry and excited to see where it's going to go.
I am, and I'm thrilled about the potential that we have now to move into Canada, to actually be visible on the shelves of the most heavily traded economic market for cannabis in the world. But moreover, I think I'm just super proud of the team that we've put together, even though it's small, it's a tiny little tight team. What we've been able to accomplish is pretty extraordinary. And it's only because we really care about what we're doing. We care about the plant. We care about our consumers. And I think that's the best part, is waking up every day and being part of something that's pretty innovative and exciting, and a great group of people. Anytime you can handpick your team is awesome. Like, it's not like rolling into a CMO job and you have to deal with whomever's there from your past CMO. And it's a much better situation in which to be.
It sure seems like they are set to succeed. The future is wide open for them. We'll see how they do. As you heard, Tracey was kind enough to pass on a bottle of their Rosé Pink, which is made with Pinot Noir, and the single-serving sparkling Chardonnay Mimosa. It does have a nice tropical fruit flavor. The THC buzz was subtle, but you certainly feel lighter all over and pleasantly content. Your results may differ. To find House of Saka beverages at a location near you, their website has a page to help you find the products at houseofsaka.com. S-A-K-A. Thanks to Tracey for making the trek to meet up with me. It was a pleasure. Find more interviews and wine trivia at onthewineroad.us or .com. I'm on Facebook /onthewineroad. Go ahead and like the page if you would. And I'm on Instagram as JD Wine Road. And I thank you for listening. I'll see you next time on The Wine Road. I'm Jeff Davis.